What's up, spell slingers and Highlander enthusiasts? Havoc here, and today I would like to present you with a Brawl deck tech for one of the most anticipated commanders for this format. But before I do, let me give you a quick reminder about my 100 sub giveaway. To celebrate my first milestone for this channel, I'm giving away a pack fresh Muldrotha the Gravetide. I picked up this old girl at the pre-release this last weekend in one of my prize support packs, so she didn't even get to see play. She went straight into a sleeve, and I want to give her to one of you absolutely free. All you have to do is follow the link in the description to sign up. Now, because my channel is small, your chances of winning are a little better than the thousands of entries that some of the other more established channels get. So what are you waiting for? Pause the video, click the link, and sign up. Slimefoot will still be waiting for you when you come back. One of the most interesting commanders coming out in Dominaria has got to be Slimefoot the Stowaway. And much like all other commanders in Brawl, we need to talk viability first. Dominaria gave us a ton of Saproling and Fungus cards that get Magic players like me itching to start brewing, but Saprolings have had some support in the last block as well, and we'll get to that in a minute, but just know that the support is there. Maybe not as much as we'd like to have in other tribal decks, but for this one in particular, I think there's enough. But let's take a look at the Stowaway himself. Slimefoot the Stowaway is a 3-mana 2/3 legendary fungus in Golgari colors. He has two very relevant abilities in his text box. The first says that whenever a Saproling dies, Slimefoot does 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life. Now, the each opponent is important because we play in a multiplayer format. And the second ability says pay 4 generic mana to create a 1/1 green Saproling token. Now, this ability, because you don't actually have to tap Slimefoot to do it, has got all the combo players excited. But there really isn't anything we can do with this in standard right now with the cards that we have to combo off per se. But this is still so solid to have repeatable token generation on our commander. His CMC is low, so casting him a few times in the game isn't unreasonable, and the ability to get that token engine all on one card is so nice. But this isn't the only way we make those Saprolings, so let's first take a look at what other token makers we have in the deck. First is Deathbloom Thallid. This mushroom has a good body for 3 mana, and you can attack and block with this guy aggressively because we still get that Saproling on his death trigger. And spoiler alert, even if he does die, we have some ways in this deck to get him back. Next is Yavimaya Sapherd. So this is the green way of doing exactly what the Deathbloom does. We just get a little less on the Sapherd's body, but again, we get the Saproling, and that's what we're looking for. We have Overgrown Armasaur. Now, you might be thinking, what? There's a dinosaur that makes Saprolings? Yep, I bet you forgot about this guy, didn't you? But with a 4/4 body, this dissuades opponents from attacking into you, not just because of the normal reasons, but also because you get that Saproling token. And the same is true with chump blocking this guy when he attacks in, because he'll make that token so you could get some free damage in because nobody wants to touch the Armasaur. Tendershoot Dryad is one of our all-star creatures here, so he might be a high target for removal, but if he sticks around, then you'll have more Saprolings than you can shake a stick at. And he's a lord, and with this deck, getting the City's Blessing will be very easy. Next, we have Verdant Force, another powerhouse creature here, but this one is a little harder to remove with that 7/7 body. Let's just say if you get both this guy and the Tendershoot Dryad on the board with a sack outlet, the game could be over very quickly. We have Saproling Migration. Dominaria also gave us 2 very good non-creature options for Saproling token generation. This card is just awesome with the optional kicker cost. 2 tokens for 2 mana or 4 tokens for 6 mana is just amazing, and versatility is the name of the game here, and this card is all about it. And finally, we have Spore Swarm. 4 mana for 3 tokens at instant speed is just what this deck is looking for, either to spring a surprise defense or to get more Saprolings on board on your opponent's instep, and anytime you can do that, it just feels good. Now, only 7 cards in the deck actually produce tokens, and you might think that's not enough to run this theme, but remember, we have Slimefoot that we can cast and recast to get our engine online. Now, making saplings isn't the only thing this wants to do. Although this might look like a token go wide strategy here, it really isn't, because Slimefoot also is an aristocrat enabling commander. Aristocrats is basically a theme where you sack your own creatures to benefit you in some way, either draining life or drawing cards or scrying. We basically make our tokens and then sack them to get an edge, and we have a lot of toys when it comes to this area. In the synergy category, let's break it up into 2 different types of synergy, and the first is killing the saplings. You heard me right, we're gonna kill them all. First, we have Bontu the Glorified. Bontu gives us a great sack outlet, and in doing so, it also brings him online to attack or block for us. But here's the great thing. If you have both him and Slimefoot on board, then you are draining 2 from each opponent and gaining 2 from each sack, and Bontu lets you scry 1 for each sack as well. For 3 mana, you couldn't really ask for much more, and he's carrying a 4/6 body with menace, and on top of that, he's indestructible. I mean, if you have a god to use in this format, then you'd better use it. Next, we have Yahini Undying Partisan. Here we have another sack outlet, but also a great creature. He grows larger every time an opponent's creature dies, and he has a great way of protecting himself. And in this deck, we should have enough sack fodder lying around that he could do this at his leisure. Yahini is a great sack outlet that sticks to the board very nicely for us. Next, in this synergy about killing saplings, we have Thallid Omnivore. Now, I love this card, and it's not just because we get to see a plant eating another plant in the most gruesome fashion. Thallid Omnivore is a great sack outlet and pumps himself and will gain us life. Now, if you attack in with a Thallid Omnivore, your opponents are going to have to be very careful in blocking him when there are saplings on the table and you have open mana. Great creature here. Next is Thallid Soothsayer. Now, since we can make these saplings so easily, it's awesome that we can cash in on that with some card draw with the Soothsayer. Even if you have to pay for the token generation and then sacking it to the Soothsayer, the card draw is still great. And drawing extra cards in a turn is what everyone wants to be doing in Magic. Now here comes the big guy, Torgar Famine Incarnate. So Torgar starts out as an 8-drop, but even if you can just sack 2 saplings, it halves his casting cost, and that ETB trigger is brutal. Being able to have someone's life total is just awesome. Now, I was able to do this at pre-release a couple times, and it is just a beating. And this is the perfect payoff for having all of this sack fodder lying around. Now let's take a look at Fungal Plots. Now, like I said earlier, we have some recursion options in the deck, so this first ability isn't always what we want to be doing. But hey, in a pinch, sure, it helps. But really what we're after is that second ability on this enchantment. Sack 2 of our saplings to gain 2 life and draw a card. Now, remember what our commander does. By sacking 2 saplings to Fungal Plots, we are effectively gaining 4 life and draining our opponents by 2 and drawing a card. And a great synergy here with our commander, if they actually kill Slimefoot, we can let him go to the graveyard and then exile him to Fungal Plots, and then with the exile effect, put him back in the command zone. That's a great way to get another sapling on the board. Synergy is the name of the game here, and Fungal Plots just plays into that theme so nicely. And finally, on this side of the synergy discussion, we have Rite of Belzenlok. So this saga has nothing to do with saplings, but it has everything to do with sacking creatures for some benefit. Getting a 6/6 flying trample creature is no small thing, and that by the time you get this demon out, you also have 4 tokens to sack to him before you even have to start supporting him with your sapling tokens. But even if you do, okay, we have another sack outlet for us. Great. Now, killing our saplings isn't the only thing that we can do in this deck because, well, hey, they're creatures too. And because we can flood the board, we might as well put in some ways to pump up our sapling army just in case we decide to roll in and smash face. Now, we already talked about Tendershoot Dryad, which is a sapling lord, but there are a few other ways in the deck to pump up our creatures. First, we have Metallic Mimic. We will obviously be naming saplings here unless you see an opening with fungi on the board, but I don't really think that will actually happen. Just name saplings and go from there. Just making making all of our saplings automatically bigger is so nice. And having those +1/+1 counters might come in handy in the mana ramp category as well, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. We also have Spore Crown Thallid, just a simple bear here that pumps all of our fungus and saplings. This is great value in the early game and helps our saplings become real threats in the late game. And our last way to pump the team is the Immortal Sun. Now this just does everything for us. It pumps the team, it draws us cards, it ramps us, it shuts down planeswalkers. Imagine if you're playing against a planeswalker commander here and you drop the Immortal Sun. How much of a beating is that? This could just win you the game right here. It's expensive at 6 mana, but if you get it out on the board, then you have a great chance of winning the game. As you can see, whether you're trying to kill your saplings or pump them, there is a lot of support for both, which only reinforces why Slimefoot is a great commander right now. Now let's move into the removal category. Now, if you haven't been able to tell so far in the deck tech, one of the weak spots in this deck is flying creatures. We have one flying creature, and that's the demon token that Rite of Belzenlok gives us. So this might be something you might want to address in your own decks, but for me, I'm going to basically hold onto my removal for those kinds of threats that I can't deal with on the ground. So here's my removal package. First, we have Ravenous Chupacabra. Targeted unconditional removal on a creature that we have the opportunity to get back from the graveyard is just so good for us. We have to have this creature in the deck, and hopefully we can recur it to get even more value. We have Cast Down. This hits a lot of creatures in the format. However, I can see you swapping this out for a Walk the Plank if you know that you're not going to go up against a Merfolk deck. But a 2-mana kill spell at instant speed is just good. There's no getting around it. Next is Vicious Offering, which gives us even more synergy here because we're more than happy to sack a creature, and this actually helps us against the indestructible gods that are running around the format right now. We have Vraska's Contempt. This takes care of both creatures and planeswalkers, and it exiles, which is just the cherry on top for this removal package. And we're also running Fatal Push. Getting Revolt online shouldn't be hard for us in this deck, so that way we can target any CMC creature 4 or less. And let me just tell you, there are a lot of powerful creatures in the 4-drop slot running around the format right now. We also have Thrashing Brontodon, which is just the best creature-based artifact and enchantment hate in Brawl right now, so we gotta run the Bronto. Now let's talk about our recursion options. First, we're running Whisper, Blood Liturgist. Now, in my opinion, I think this might be one of the most underrated legends in all of Dominaria. I'm brewing up an EDH deck for this mono black commander, but in this deck, it gives us a great sack outlet and a way to get our creatures back directly onto the battlefield, which is huge. Especially since we have ETB triggers that can just kill our opponent's creatures, or other ones that are just super impactful and other ways to get more saplings on the board. Whisper is the hidden gem of this deck. We're also running one planeswalker, Nissa Vital Force. Nissa just gives us a lot of utility. She can give us a nice threat or protection if we need it sometimes to get our engine online, and we can use her to get something back from the graveyard. And on top of all of that, she's super easy to ult to get a great emblem that can actually draw us a lot of cards over time. And finally, we have Journey to Eternity. So this is a new card that came out in Rivals of Ixalan. This is the flip aura that flips when the enchanted creature dies. For this deck, it's awesome because we can just cast it on one of our tokens that we're going to sack anyways. Easy peasy. But you need to be careful with this card because it's an aura. I wouldn't cast this unless I was sure I could kill the token right away, because if that token gets exiled before we can sack it, or if the token dies while we're casting this, then it fizzles and it's gone. So be careful. Although we only have 3 ways of recurring our creatures, all 3 of these are repeatable effects. And that will help us with what this deck wants to do and get us back some of our bigger threats later in game when removal might be running a little low. The final thing we need to talk about besides our mana base in this deck is our ramp. Now, let me just say that this deck is very mana hungry. So we need to make sure that we have enough mana to do the things that we want to do. First off, we have Llanowar Elves. We have a 1-drop Mana Dork back in Standard again, so we have to play it. Getting this out early will help us out immensely, and most of the time opponents will leave it alone because it's not worth a removal spell. We're also running Channeler Initiate, just great ramp early and a good body later. What's not to like? We also have Rishkar Pima Renegade. Rishkar is great, and as I've said before, we have other ways to put +1/+1 counters on our creatures. So this could get out of control really fast, and the perfect thing to fuel our Sapperling Aristocrats theme here. Another new ramp spell out of Dominaria is Grow from the Ashes, and this is one of my new favorite ramp spells because you can kick it to get 2 lands if you need to, and they come in untapped. This is so strong in our format, so get used to seeing this card in all of the green decks. We also have Thematic Compass, another flip card here that lets us search out a land and put it into our hand. But then it flips into a Maze of Ith, which is just great for us. We also have a Song of Freyalise, and I cannot say it enough. How is this an uncommon? On lore chapters 1 and 2, it turns all of our tokens into Mana Dorks, and then on chapter 3, it pumps the team and turns them indestructible. And don't forget, Nissa can potentially get this back for us. Such a great card, and it's a no-brainer here. We also have the Growing Rights of Itlimoc, and let me ask you, if we're going to be making a ton of tokens, you know it would be really nice? Having a Gaia's Cradle. Or maybe the next best thing, which is the fixed Gaia's Cradle right here, Growing Rights of Itlimoc. Yep, that seems nice to me. I'll take this all day long. And finally, we have Path of Discovery. Good old Path of Discovery. This is just so good in Brawl. It helps us turn through our deck, it can pump up our Sapperlings, or it can help us ramp. I've talked about Path of Discovery too much in all of my videos. If you want to hear more about this card, then go watch the Huatli or the Samut deck tech, but I'm done talking about Path of Discovery in this video. The last card before we get to our mana is Argol's Bloodfast. Hopefully, if things are going right, we're going to be gaining a lot of life off of sacking our tokens, and paying 2 for drawing a card shouldn't be a problem. So yeah, why not use the Bloodfast? In our mana base, we're running an Evolving Wilds and also a Field of Ruin to take care of those pesky legendary lands running around the format right now. And also a Memorial to Folly and a Memorial to Unity, both useful abilities to have around. We're also putting in a Woodland Cemetery, a Foul Orchard, the Ifnir Dreadlands, a Blooming Marsh, and top it all off with 8 Swamps and 9 Forest. So there you have it. I hope you can see why I believe this deck is not just viable, but it's going to be very strong. And like in a lot of my deck techs, this has the potential to be around for a while. And who knows what other support we might get in the future sets. Slimefoot the Stowaway is such a powerful commander, and he's one of those commanders that can win the game without even swinging in combat. I can't wait to beat down my play group with the Slime Father himself, the token mushroom maniac Slimefoot the Stowaway. Just give him a chance and you'll see that he's a real fun guy. But I want to know what you think. What cards am I forgetting here? What would you add? I honestly want to know. And don't forget to enter to win a copy of Muldrotha the Gravetide for my 100 sub giveaway. Again, click the link in the description below. Once again, my name is Havoc. This has been a Brawl Deck Tech. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.